Welcome back to my channel, V Street Love. I'm Vanessa, and on this channel, I like to make silly Sims videos, and sometimes I like to do speed builds or whatever. And today, I'm going to be showing you the build that I did of the Krusty Krab from Spongebob SquarePants. Honestly, y'all, I had so much fun doing this. It was like a hoot to try to recreate something from one of my favorite childhood shows in The Sims. I've never made a build this silly before, and I had a lot of fun trying to figure out how to use Sim stuff to recreate things from SpongeBob. Now, I want to know, did you watch SpongeBob SquarePants growing up? And if you did, let me know what your favorite episode was in the comments below. Now, you're probably wondering, why did I decide to make a Krusty Krab speed build video? And why did I decide to make the Krusty Krab in The Sims? Well, it all started because my life has been a little stressful, and I did some gardening, some adult activities, and I turned on an episode of SpongeBob and I was cracking up, okay? I was literally dying. That show is so funny, especially the earlier seasons, like when the show first started when I was a kid. Those episodes are legitimately funny. Like, I know that there's kid shows now that some kid shows are just better than other kid shows because how they can appeal to adults. And early SpongeBob, in my opinion, appeals to adults. It's really funny. So the episode that I watched on this fateful day was called Born Again Crabs. Now, if it's been a while since you've seen SpongeBob, or if you haven't seen that episode, let me give you a quick play-by-play. So it starts off with SpongeBob finds an old, dirty, nasty patty underneath the stove, and he goes to throw it away. And as he's throwing it away, this claw machine pops out of nowhere and catches the nasty patty in its little hook and basically is trying to save it from the trash. And the little machine says something like, "You have saved 5.2 cents. So Mr. Krabs comes out of nowhere and he's like, "SpongeBob, what are you doing trying to throw away a perfectly good patty?" SpongeBob is like, "That is not a perfectly good patty. That is trash. That is garbage. I found it underneath the stove. Who knows how long it's been there?" And Mr. Krabs is like, I don't know about that. That seems perfectly good to me. You will be serving that patty to the next customer who orders a Krabby Patty. And SpongeBob tries to push back a little bit, but in the end, Mr. Krabs is like, "You are not going to sell another patty until you sell that patty," which is absolutely crazy. That man is so crazy. And I know that Mr. Krabs' whole shtick is that he's cheap and that he's just like so intense about money, but that is pure comedy to me that he literally was like, "You have to sell this trash before you can sell perfectly good food." So the next day, SpongeBob sadly, okay, he's not happy about it. He sadly makes a Krabby Patty with that nasty trash patty, okay? And he puts it through the window for Squidward to get. So Squidward picks up the tray and he looks at the patty and he's like, "What the heck?" And he lifts off the top bun and there's literally like stank lines coming off of this Krabby Patty. And Squidward literally says, "SpongeBob, can I get a patty with a little less fog?" SpongeBob's like, "No, I can't make anything else until that one's sold." According to Mr. Krabs, like, he won't let me make anything else. So Squidward is so complicit. He's like, "All right, whatever. I don't even care for real." And he literally gives it to the customer. Now, I feel like there could be some commentary around capitalism and being a cog in a wheel and how people are compelled to do things that they know are wrong because of strict corporate overlords. But either way, Squidward gives the Krabby Patty to the customer, okay? The customer takes one whiff of that thing, basically runs out of the restaurant. Cut to Mr. Krabs looking out the window of the restaurant. He's like, "We haven't had a customer in weeks." Weeks? Oh my God. They've been trying to sell that same nasty patty for weeks. They literally do not have business because Mr. Krabs insists on selling trash to his customers. What is wrong with him? So that Squidward has some sense. He's like, "We don't have customers because you keep trying to sell that trash to the customers." And Mr. Krabs like, "It's not trash. It's perfectly fine. SpongeBob, bring me the patty." So SpongeBob like pulls out like a little cage and the patty's in the cage and it's like barking like a wild dog. And SpongeBob was like, "Ooh, I'm scared of this thing." And Mr. Krabs is like, "Oh, please, like, you're being so dramatic." He calms down the little crabby monster, proceeds to take a bite, rush to the hospital. While he's on his way into the ambulance, he literally stops and he's like, "SpongeBob, don't throw away the patty. I'm not done with it yet." Excuse me? Unhinged behavior. So then the next scene is Mr. Krabs is literally in the hospital bed. The doctor comes in and is like, he's like, "Hey, Eugene, don't worry. Everything's on the up and up." And Mr. Krabs is like, "Oh my gosh, like, am I like good to go? My health is great." The doctor takes one look at his chart and literally starts freaking out. He's like, oh dear God, don't touch me." So now Mr. Krabs is freaking out Next thing you know, the Flying Dutchman shows up. And the Flying Dutchman is basically showing up to bring him to hell. And Mr. Krabs begs for a second chance at life. At that point, the Flying Dutchman is like, fine, I guess. But he says you can no longer be cheap. You have to be generous, okay? So when Mr. Krabs comes back to life, he's like running the restaurant in the most generous way. Tell me why Mr. Krabs has the nerve to announce free toys for kids' meals and free refills on drinks. And everyone in the restaurant is like, yay! I'm like thinking to myself as I'm watching the show, I'm like, that's the bare minimum for restaurants. Bare minimum is that you get free refills on soda and that the kids' meals comes with toys. But he got the whole town snowed. They don't know that that's just regular stuff. The rest of the episode is basically Mr. Krabs like being so generous that he basically runs his restaurant into the ground. Like he's basically bankrupt. And once he figures out that this isn't a dream, because I think he thought that he was dreaming and he had been taken down to Davy Jones' locker. When Squidward and SpongeBob are like, nah, Mr. Krabs, like, this is real life. Mr. Krabs turns a switch. He flips 180. He goes back to being the cheap jerk that we know him to be. He literally is taking the refills back that he was giving people for free, taking the toys back from the kids. He had been playing this movie that wasn't even available in theaters yet. He had the nerve to go up to the customer and rewind the movie from the customer's memory back to the television so he could get his money back. And then some kid or somebody ends up finding like a penny or a dime on the ground. Mr. Krabs grabs the customer's arm and basically he's like, I'm gonna tear off your arm if you think you're gonna keep that penny. Whatever he says, the Flying Dutchman shows back up and he's like, what the heck is this? He's like, I told you needed to be generous. Anyway, Mr. Krabs ends up trying to beg again for his life. And the Flying Dutchman is like, nah, it's time for you to go. Like, you clearly didn't learn your lesson. But then SpongeBob ends up sticking up for Mr. Krabs. And he's like, I know Mr. Krabs is a good, generous man. Like, you can't take him. The Flying Dutchman is like, oh, you think so? So he's like, I bet you he would sell you for like a couple of dollars. And SpongeBob's like, I bet you my soul that he wouldn't. So then the Flying Dutchman turns to Mr. Krabs, who presumably has listened to this whole conversation between them, okay? So then the Flying Dutchman turns to Mr. Krabs and basically asks him, would you rather have the money in my pocket or SpongeBob? Mr. Krabs proceeds to say, I'd rather have the money in your pocket. The money in his pocket, 62 cents. He sold SpongeBob out for 62 cents. He's terrible. So then the Flying Dutchman takes away SpongeBob. Squidward is looking at Mr. Krabs like, are you serious right now? Mr. Krabs regrets his actions, but then the Flying Dutchman ends up bringing back SpongeBob because SpongeBob doesn't know how to shut up. Y'all, that episode really had me crying the whole time. Now, I know I was doing adult activities or whatever, but it still was truly funny. Like, the whole thing. I feel like the most unhinged part of the episode, well, I guess two super unhinged parts of the episode. One is when the doctor is freaking out about his chart. Like, that taps into, you know that part of you when you go to the doctor and you're just like, if the doctor is freaking out, you know it's bad. Like, a professional doctor in real life would never freak out as bad as he did on that show. But the way the doctor ran out of that room, like, don't touch me, please. Comedy, pure comedy, top tier comedy. And then the other part, when Mr. Krabs is literally about to tear off somebody's arm for like a penny on the ground. Like, his character is terrible. He's a terrible, terrible person. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you haven't watched SpongeBob in a while and you have the opportunity to, please pull up an episode or two because those old episodes are funny. I do not care what anybody says. Seasons 1 through like 3, the best SpongeBob comedy ever. Some of my favorite episodes were like the campfire song episode. My favorite episode as a kid was this one called Squid's Day Off. It was another episode where Mr. Krabs ends up going to the hospital, lols. And when he goes to the hospital, he puts Squidward in charge and then Squidward is trying to weasel a day off, but he doesn't know how to relax because he thinks that SpongeBob is an idiot because he puts SpongeBob in charge. Obviously, shenanigans ensue. I think that episode is also so good. So if you haven't had a chance of watching SpongeBob, make sure you do. I mean, I think that's the thing about television for me growing up. Like, I watched a lot of kids' TV shows growing up in America. I don't know where you're watching this from. I'm assuming most of the people who are watching are in America, but I don't think everybody who watches me is in America. Also, let me know where you're from in the comments. Hey. For me, the big 3 channels growing up as a kid in America were Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, and Cartoon Network. I would say my favorite channel of those 3 was Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon was the channel that had Cat Dog, Hey Arnold, Rugrats, those like classic 90s, early aughts TV shows. And then from there, I think my second favorite was maybe Disney Channel. I don't know. I feel like Disney Channel and Cartoon Network for me were tied. Like, I like the Disney Channel original movies. I don't remember what shows on Disney Channel I watched, but on Cartoon Network, I did like the shows on Cartoon Network. I was always watching Courage the Cowardly Dog. I watched Ed, Ed, and Eddie, but that wasn't necessarily like my favorite. Powerpuff Girls. Oh my God, I loved Powerpuff Girls growing up. And so those were just a few of the things that I watched in addition to SpongeBob, and SpongeBob was on Nickelodeon. I feel like Nickelodeon was top tier television for 90s kids in America. I'm not even sure if they played in other countries. I'm assuming so. Because SpongeBob is like worldwide. Now, when it comes to the actual build, like I said before, I had a lot of fun. I've never done anything like this before. Have you guys ever done anything like this in The Sims? I feel like it's so obvious, but again, like I just never have tried. I feel like the Krusty Krab was a good build to start with in regards to building things from my favorite television shows. One, because the Krusty Krab is a very simple shape. It's basically just a rectangle with like a rounded roof. And then the floor plan itself is really simple. There's literally 4 rooms. There's the main dining room, Mr. Krabs' office, the kitchen, and the bathroom. And that's the whole build. So even though it took me a while to do this, I would say that I think all in it took me 2 hours to build this because I kept starting over and I wasn't exactly sure like what I wanted to use for like the wallpapers and the floors and etc. And once I really started going, it probably only took like 90 minutes or so. Like it didn't take long, but it did take long for the size of the build. But again, it was pretty simple and straightforward and a good way to like, I don't know, get my building muscles stretched. You know what I mean? One of the things that I found particularly challenging was in the floor plan, according to like screenshots of the Krusty Krab, from Google, there is this ledge above the kitchen, like behind the cash register, where there's like storage barrels and boxes and things that you can kind of see sometimes in certain episodes. And I decided not to build that because one, I didn't know how I was going to do that. I don't know if it was like, I needed to make a second floor or something like that in the restaurant. And I had no idea of how to do that without making it so big. So then that meant that for the storage boxes and the barrels and stuff, I put them sporadically in the restaurant, even though when you're watching the show, there's not like a broom next to the cash register or there's not a bunch of barrels everywhere. It was just my way of keeping like a nautical theme in the restaurant. Another thing is the tables. I was trying to figure out which tables to use. I ended up using the most expensive like base game round tables. And I found that so funny because I was like, Mr. Krabs would never allow such an expense. But to me, it was the closest to like the round shipping wheel type of tables that they have in the restaurant on the show. I also was going back and forth on the doors. In the show, I think they're like heavy metal doors that you might find on a ship, but they are rounded, like arch rounded doors. And I was trying to stick with that shape at first because we don't have any like big metal doors like that in The Sims. So I was like, I think it would be more important to have rounded archy type of doors versus just regular rectangular doors. But then I changed my mind. I decided that it would be better to use the doors from Dine Out, the ones that have like the circle that you can kind of see through and you flip them open. I felt like that still felt kind of nautical to me, even though I know it's like more of a restaurant thing. And I thought that was right. The other thing is Mr. Krabs' office. So he sits at what looks like is a chest. And I was like, we don't have any table that's like that. I think that was really cool though. So I ended up using a dresser for his desk. And I also in his office, he has like a built-in shelving unit thing, which if I could do that again, I probably could have done a better job of making it actually built in, like put a bookcase in a wall or something like that and then build a wall around it. But in the end, what I did was I just picked a random bookcase and I put it against the wall. FYI, your Sims will go and use that. When I was playtesting this restaurant, because yes, I playtested, they definitely went in there and they used the bookcase and they probably would use the dresser if they can get to it. I don't know what to tell you. I did my best. It's going to look cute. It just will also be a little ridiculous because the Sims like being a little ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, I think some of the things that I think I did well was we have these flags, like this flag item, either from seasons or from Get Together. I don't remember which one I used, but it looks a lot like the flags that are put up on the Krusty Krab on the outside and in Mr. Krabs' office. So I was able to use it twice. Also in Cats and Dogs, there is this like fishing net decorative item that has bottles and I don't even know, fishing lures. I don't know what is on it, but I thought that that was a good thing to put up in the windows, kind of like in place of a net, because we don't really have a net that I can use in the windows. And then the other thing is chairs. We don't have a lot of nautical themed chairs, which, you know, sometimes with The Sims, it's like, what's better for us to have more general design style things or to have things that are like super, super specific? For me, the answer is more general things. I don't want to have like barrel shaped chairs or like ship shaped chairs or whatever. But still, when I was trying to like make my Krusty Krab build, I was like, I don't know which items I should use to like match what's going on in the show. This build doesn't use any CC. It does use a lot of packs. I'm not sorry. I was having fun. I was not concerned about doing a limited pack build. Would you guys even be interested in seeing a limited pack build for me? I think that that could be fun, a fun challenge. I'm open to a fun challenge. But sometimes when I'm overly focused on having limited packs, I just kind of get frustrated because you know what The Sims likes to do when they sell us DLC? They'll give us one perfect item. Like the whole pack has one perfect item that goes with another one perfect item from another pack completely. And then it's like, okay, well, if I want to have like a finished set, I have to use these two different packs, right? Like, so sometimes it's like, I have to use more packs. So one example of this is like when I was building the condiment station in the kitchen, we don't have anything that really represents like condiments for real. You know, like the big condiments where you can like pump ketchup when you go into like a fast food place or something. That condiment station is in the show, in the kitchen in most episodes. And I was trying to do that, but we don't have anything that's like a pump like that. So I ended up using the bathroom clutter kit to try to mimic mayonnaise, mustard, and ketchup, as well as the table toppers that have like a ketchup thing from one of the other kitchen packs. And that's like, 2-3 different packs already just to set up like a little condiment station. That's not even that big of a deal for real. But either way, it's still fun. It's still fun to try to like mess with that. You know what I just thought of actually now as I'm talking about it? There may have been ketchup or something in debug. So I did not really look through debug for this build. Again, this is my first time doing like a super silly build like this. So if I were to do it again, I might take like a little bit more time to kind of like search through debug, see if I can find anything that like matches what I'm looking for. But I had fun. I had a lot of fun. Actually, you know what? Now that I'm saying this, I guess the other kind of like super intricate, silly build that I did was my Mystica Apothecary shop, which I will do, you know, the little thingy so you can click and see that speed build. That one wasn't so much silly as much as it was more like fantastical for me. And that was also a lot of fun. Like making something that in my brain come to life in The Sims that has like a lot of items and is really immersive feeling. So much fun. Totally recommend it also if you haven't done anything like that, like recreating something from a show or recreating like a little cottage or something. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, because now that I'm done with this, I'm thinking that there's a couple of different directions I can go in. I was thinking that maybe what I could do next is make a residential rental lot that has Patrick's Rock, Squidward's home, and then SpongeBob's Pineapple, like all on the same lot. That can be kind of fun, right? And I was even thinking like, how would I make SpongeBob's house? Because in most episodes, the top of the pineapple is just like a pineapple, like the green part. But in some episodes, his pineapple top thing is like a rooftop deck. I'm thinking right now the episode of when SpongeBob thinks he's ugly because he has really bad breath. I'm pretty sure they go to his rooftop deck, him and Patrick makes him yell, "I'm ugly and I'm proud." But that's an episode where like that green part of the pineapple is an actual thing that SpongeBob can like go visit and hang out at, you know? So I'm like, oh, is that how I would try to build that? Like, how would I cover that so it kind of looks like a pineapple? I wonder what kind of wallpapers that we have that kind of have a pineapple texture. It could be a fun challenge. Again, it could be really fun. And I'm also thinking about other shows too. Like I really like Bob's Burgers. So it would be fun to make like Bob's Burgers restaurant and like their apartment, Jimmy Pesto's from across the street, the Wonder Wharf, or another show that I like to watch is Rick and Morty. And I'm like, oh, that house would be really fun to build because Rick has that secret lab underneath the house. So the house on top could be pretty basic or whatever, but then I could have a lot of fun building a secret lab with a bunch of random inventions and aliens and whatnot all underneath. Like that could be actually hilarious. I think that's what's fun about being an adult now. Like I love watching cartoons because I loved watching cartoons as a kid. And I love adult cartoons. I love Bob's Burgers. I love Rick and Morty. And you know what else I love? I love Steven Universe. I know that it's not an adult cartoon, but I actually just watched it recently. I'm not done with it yet, so no spoilers, but it's such a cute show. And even that, like, it would be so fun to make the crystal gems and cast, build a little house in The Sims. Like, that could be fun too, like building pearl, garnet, and amethyst, like their little caves or whatever in The Sims. That could be a fun little project. I was just thinking about that just now. But yeah, I love cartoons even now. I will say, I don't watch anime. You know, anime, honestly, the idea of it stresses me out. There are a lot of different shows. People have a lot of opinions. And the main thing is, I can't tell if anime is like funny. It gives the vibes of like a drama, like a cartoon drama. And I don't know if you noticed, but all the shows that I named are like funny. I think honestly, the two most serious shows that I named are probably Steven Universe and Rick and Morty for different reasons. Steven Universe has like a lot of emotional impacting that they're doing all the time, but Rick and Morty is dark comedy. Like, it can get so dark and weird. But yeah, when I think about anime, I'm like, ugh. Is it going to be serious? Is it going to be funny? But anyway, we're coming to the end of the speed build portion of this video. So let's jump into the game and let me show you how the Krusty Krab turned out. All right, y'all, so here is the Krusty Krab. On the outside, I tried to make the sign without using any CC, like I said before. So I just used this crab and I put it on this like gas station sign from, I think, Oasis Springs. I don't know where that comes from. I added the flags on the outside, the little enter here sign, the little stuff that goes on the roof, and then around the back there is a dumpster. I didn't really landscape this lot because I was like, I'm not doing that. But you know, I was just trying to have fun, so I didn't think it was that serious. Now on the inside, I've got the netting like I talked about before. We got some storage boxes. I've got 6 tables on the inside. I ended up having to move the boat, if you saw in the speed build, in front of the hostess stand, because when the hostess stand was inside of the boat, the Sims would not go to it. And then you couldn't get seated. So I had to move it behind the boat, but it's still cute. It's still a vibe. And that also means I'm able to keep the hostess stand kind of like the cash register that Squidward uses in front of the kitchen where SpongeBob delivers the food. I put this menu up. I think this is also from Cats and Dogs, and it's kind of like the Krusty Krab as well, and it matches the sign outside. And then in the show, there's like an order here sign, so I put that above the kitchen. Here we've got Mr. Krabs' office with some like rafters. I put some spandrels in here because there's like rafters in the show. And also Mr. Krabs has a safe here in the show, but we don't really have anything like that. So I use this wheel to represent the safe. Then over here, we've got SpongeBob's kitchen. I put some barrels and stuff just to kind of keep the vibe. But we have the condiment station where I said like I used the bathroom clutter to represent ketchup, mayo, and mustard. And then we've got SpongeBob storage with like random boxes on top. And then we've got the bathroom. I don't know if you remember in the show, but like next to the stalls, we have like a lifesaver on one of the stalls. And then we have the sink with the mirror and like paper towels and stuff. So it's a pretty simple build, but it's so cute. Let me also show you the menu and the uniforms. Now, I did add some lot traits that I thought were appropriate given, you know, the show. So we have Chef's Kitchen because you know that SpongeBob takes his craft very seriously, and you know the food that comes through here is good. We also have Penny Pixies, where Sims will often find loose change around the place. And I thought, given the story I just told about Mr. Krabs about to snatch somebody's arm off for a penny on the ground, this makes perfect sense. And then I also added convivial because there always seems to be customers in that restaurant, except for when Mr. Krabs is serving his customers trash. Now for the uniforms and the menu. So for the menu, I did a kind of combination seafood hamburger restaurant. So we've got basic drinks, like mostly seltzer, water, but then I added a little bit of wine and a little bit of beer because I was like, it's fine, it's Sims. Then for appetizers, we've definitely got some fries and then like crab cake, clam chowder, shrimp. And for the main course, it's basically hamburgers and hot dogs. I did add a lobster roll, but even the lobster roll is kind of cheap. In this economy, I'd love to pay $7 for a lobster roll. And then for dessert, we have ice cream because I looked up the menu for the Krusty Krab, and it's like for dessert, they have like milkshakes. So I figured this is the best that I could do in The Sims. Now for the uniforms, the chef's uniform is obviously inspired by SpongeBob himself. So I looked up the SpongeBob the Musical and I tried to find an outfit that's close to the costume that they did in the musical, because we don't have anything that exactly matches SpongeBob in The Sims, but we do have this little outfit that I was like, you know what, this is SpongeBob adjacent, this works. And I did the same sort of outfit for like the female frame Sims, and then also a similar sort of like SpongeBob vibe with a skirt and the socks for this outfit as well. Now for the waiters, I was like, the waiters are going to be Squidward inspired. So Squidward wears his brown top and then he doesn't wear any pants. So I figured that the pants and the shoes could be like Squidward flesh color, even though, you know, the Sims aren't this color. And then for the alternative outfit, I try to think of it as like the Sim is wearing a top but no bottoms. And for female frame Sims, it's like the same exact thing for the first outfit option. But then for the second outfit option, I decided just to make a dress because, yeah, in this case, they aren't wearing any bottoms. And I thought this was pretty funny. So for the host I thought should be inspired by Mr. Krab. So the host is wearing a blue top with blue pants and then red shoes to represent Mr. Krab's little legs. And then the same sort of outfit for female frame Sims. You can find this lot on the gallery. My gallery ID is vstreetlove. And I do want to take a second to read the description that I made because I thought it was pretty funny. It says, "Welcome to the Krusty Krab, where people order our patties. Our special is the Krabby Patty Deluxe, and for a limited time, you can also get our pretty patties. Please note, no free refills, ketchup costs extra, toys with Krabby Meals cost extra." But that's it for me, folks. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel, liking this video, and turning on the post notifications so you know when my next video goes up. I go live weekly on this channel, so you're gonna want to subscribe so you don't miss any of those shenanigans. And don't worry, there is more fun to be had. Check out the other videos on my channel here. Until next time, y'all, dag dag!